To the Frequency Project. I'm Joe, and this is David,
What's up?
and we are going to dive into some cool stuff today. What are we
Yeah,
going to talk about today, David?
yeah, resonance. Today we're going to talk about resonance. It's kind of the reason why we got into this whole project in the first place, and I feel like really kind of picking it apart because resonance can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people, and I think if we maybe talk about it, we'll flush out what it is, and you'll have a better understanding after you watch this video. That's the goal anyway. We're gonna go through it together. Yeah.
For sure. Here we go.
And go. So first off, let me just pull up this page. Let's define resonance. This is where it gets super fun.
All right.
So here we've got intensification and prolongation of sound, especially a musical tone, produced by sympathetic vibration. Okay. We've got intensification of vocal tones during articulation, as by the air cavities of the mouth and nasal passage. So, your resonators, oftentimes singers will say, are your sinuses, your chest. They resonate the sound within your body. Richness or significance, especially in evoking an association or strong emotion. So, like, if I say, "Hey Joe, I'm resonating with you right now," like while you're telling me a story or something, we resonate together. So physics, the increase in amplitude of oscillation of an electrical or mechanical system exposed to a periodic force whose frequency is equal or very close to the natural undamped frequency of the system. That's actually what we are going to try and have you understand today. Um, the idea that every living being, every article of matter has a resonant frequency. So it is an electrical or mechanical system. And when they say exposed to a periodic force in physics, I'll show you an example of how frequency is affecting a metal plate. So a metal plate could be any physical matter, and the frequency you'll see is very specific. So the key is if everything has a resonant or fundamental frequency, then if that frequency can be matched exactly, then you get resonance.
Mm. This is like the Dr. Emoto thing with the frozen water as well, right? It's the same.
Well, it's this principle taken to a different degree, and this is why I think it's really important for our listeners to understand resonance, or at least to try and entertain the idea of wrapping your head around understanding this, because we keep using the example of vibes, that everybody at some level feels other people's vibes. So you take that idea to resonance, and that's saying that your vibe I can feel. Now, if we like each other and we engage in conversation, that to me means that we're resonating with one another. I'm on your wavelength. I feel you. We are transmitting back and forth information in the form of words and energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in every instance in life, I think in terms of physics, and I think my brain has just been like that because of college, and because of us going to school for sound. It's just really, music is an expression of you know humans, and we resonate with music. Music can
Right.
affect us. It's a two-way transmission of energy as well.
Right.
So
They even have like a what is it called again? The happy tone or whatever, right?
yeah,
Yeah, there's chords that you can play that actually make you feel good, and they
yeah. I mean,
inject
this
that into a lot of different songs.
you can go all the way back to Pythagoras. Pythagoras created the scales that we have today
Yeah.
through strings mathematically, taking the string and then cutting it in half, cutting it in thirds, and making harmonies, harmonic resonance with the original fundamental frequency.
Mhm.
So,
Pythagoras is also the inventor of the the Western numerology theory.
yeah,
Hmm.
we talked about that the other day too.
Right. Sorry,
So
went off
here's another.
track
No,
there a
no,
little
no. Here's. I think we're just flowing, man. Just natural. I do have a. We have an hour to try and get through this, but I think we should, you know,
bit. Get through it.
well, just do it naturally. So as I'm going through more definitions here, so we've got in psychology a term applied in the James Lange theory of emotion to the complex of bodily changes reflexly aroused by the object which excites emotion. The changes are so indefinitely numerous and subtle that the entire organism may be called a sounding board. So, this is kind of like the idea that all of our bodies are resonant sounding boards and we pick up on each other's vibes. And this is a psychology term in the James Lange theory of emotion. That's pretty fascinating. We've got another definition by extension of meaning, the sympathetic arousal of oneself. So, meaning that I sympathize, when we sympathize with somebody else, we are taking on their vibe and feeling it and allowing it in, as if by echo, a state of feeling whose manifestations one is observing in another. So I'm observing it in you, I'm sympathizing with you, or the course of which one is tracing in imagination. So it could be even in thought that you are resonating with somebody else, but of which one has no direct and firsthand experience. So it's just happening because it happens. And this is going to make a little bit more sense when I show video, hopefully.
Okay.
So let me let me
It's good.
go to the
No,
first video. Oh, do you want to say something?
no. Keep going. No, it's good.
Okay. So now let me share this next video. And this is just a basic resonant experiment, just so you can wrap y'all's brains around it. This is 3 minutes. Want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Nikola Tesla. Now, we have a metal plate.
Hold on, David.
Yep, yep. Can you
Sorry.
not hear me?
Yeah, I'm turning it down on my end, so don't worry about it. I got it over here. Well, yes. Just so go ahead. Sorry.
Do you want me to turn down the video volume so that it's kind of a mix because it's coming from my computer?
Yeah, a
So
little bit, but
you
I
leave
got
your
it on this.
video the same? Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause
got it.
this doesn't have any talking, it's just music.
Yeah, so you're gonna like narrate a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Once upon a time.
Ooh, that was a good
Okay,
voice.
hold on.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so let me back it up first. So there's a metal plate on a table, and that metal plate is attached to a speaker. The speaker, if you see over here, is attached to an oscillator. This oscillator is giving very specific frequencies to the plate.
Hold on, pause it again.
Okay,
Maybe explain to some people that might not know what an oscillator is.
right. So an oscillator is just a machine that is recreating very specific sine wave frequencies through a mechanical way, and then through copper wires that are attached to a speaker that then play those frequencies, just like a speaker plays music,
Right.
except music is very complex with lots of frequencies. And this is just one frequency at a time. So literally what we saw there on that video was 100 hertz.
Okay.
So frequency is measured in hertz, which is cycles per second. So whenever you see that, that kind of S curve line where you see sine waves,
Like a wave, yeah.
if anybody's familiar with that,
An audio wave, right?
yeah, it's an audio wave. So the top part is amplitude and it's high, and then the bottom part is amplitude and it's low. So we would call that, well, let me just, I don't
You're
want to
getting
get
deep now.
I don't
Right.
want to get too complicated.
Yeah, an
So,
oscillator is just a device that sends out one frequency. That's the basics of it.
whoops. Yeah, you're really good at that.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. So we're going to vibrate the metal plate with the tone generator or the oscillator. And as the pitch of the tone increases, geometric patterns will form and they'll get more and more complex. So now what they've done is put salt, just salt, or you can use sand that's dry, and put it on a metal plate underneath the speaker. That oscillator is then going to sweep or go from 100 hertz and just then 101, 102, and then 102.5. The lesson here is that it has to be a specific frequency where it hits resonance. And you're going to see resonance right before your eyes in just a moment. Boom. So at 345 hertz. So they've swept from 100 to 345. And this was the first resonant frequency of that metal plate specifically.
There's also, let's remind the audience that 100 hertz is like so low, like you could never hear that with your ears, right?
Oh, yeah, you can hear 100 hertz.
Hold on, 100 hertz.
Yeah, our human hearing range goes from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz at average.
20
Some
hertz.
people are
Yeah,
some
right.
people are below and above, but that's average.
Sorry. Yeah, I should know
All
this.
right.
I thought, anyways, I got it backwards. But yes,
Yeah,
you're right.
it's all right. All right. So put a little bit more salt. Gonna bump up that frequency some more. Boom. 1033 hertz. We've got a different resonant pattern. 1820. Boom. Another pattern. Now, what you'll notice is it's almost like staticky first before the picture becomes really clear. They're not showing you the oscillator where it's just a knob, like a volume knob, and they're turning that knob, sweeping the frequency to get to the exact resonant frequency. Obviously, when they made the video, they wrote it down and put it in the video as 3240. But when it goes from grainy to very crisp, it's because he's sweeping that frequency to find it first.
Yeah. So what David's saying is sweeping means like just turning the knob,
Yeah.
and there are shapes, most likely, am I correct, in between these frequencies of like 1,000 and 3,000, but they're just trying to like make it more complicated as you go up in frequency, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, honestly, if there are more patterns in between. And that's the thing.
Well,
I did.
doesn't every like frequency, every like hertz has a shape, right? You would assume.
Well, this is the thing. The frequency doesn't matter at all. It only matters specifically to that piece of metal in this experiment.
Right. Okay. So that piece of metal is resonating with these specific hertz that are going into it. Now,
Right.
you can run different hertz into a different type of metal and it might be different shapes or a different frequency or whatever. So
Yes.
yeah, so what we're getting at is, relating back to the Healy, uh, each individual has a resonant frequency that is like a fingerprint individually per each person. And this piece of metal is no different. It's specific, like whatever type of metal that is, and the frequencies that are going into it.
Right. And the shape of the metal, the thickness of the metal,
Oh,
the
you can
length of
shape
it,
of the metal too?
everything matters.
Oh, wow.
Everything matters because mo- atomically, molecularly, when you put that together, like if it were a triangle or a trapezoid, or if the metal were thicker, um, mathematically, you can figure out what these resonant frequencies are after you've found a few.
Mm,
That's the cool thing about math is once you have the values of the resonant frequencies of the metal in particular, then you can calculate through the shape. And it's really complex, but at the end of the day, this is what happens when you match that frequency.
mm,
And the point is that I keep making, that I'm trying to hit home, is that it has to be that specific frequency. And that's why it's, like you're looking at 3240 hertz specifically for this thing, for this metal plate. It seems so random, but it's very specific. And when you're that person sweeping the or turning the knob to the oscillator to change the frequency from say 3000 to find that 3240, nothing is happening in between but static. So the sand doesn't make a picture at all. It just looks like a bunch of sand moving around on the plate. But when you hit that specific frequency is when it snaps into that clear picture.
mm.
And when that happens in front of your eyes in real time, it really is an aha moment that goes, holy shit, it is the resonant frequency, and it has to be specific. It can't just be 3230 or 3250 or it has to be 3240. So okay, we're going to continue to play this.
All right, keep going.
Wait.
But they have found that as you go up in frequency, that it gets more complex.
Yep.
Mm.
The higher frequencies have more complex shapes.
Oh, yeah.
You can look up this stuff. Chladni, Chladni, Chladni plates. Probably butchering how you pronounce it. Or you can look up Sir Hans Jenny, the study of cymatics, Cymatics, cymatics. Now we're going up in frequency. It just gets more and more complex. The shapes get more complex. Now, if we were to see kind of like a side view of the plate, you would actually see the plate vibrating kind of in a wave format. And where the sand sits is called the trough. So it's the low part of that sine wave. And where the black part is, that's the high part of the sine wave. So sound is in 3D coming from the speaker underneath, making this shape in the air. These waves are coming out and creating all of these peaks and troughs, and the sand is sitting in the trough. The black part is the peak.
So it's almost like micro, at a micro level, it's manipulating, it's molding almost the metal, right?
Yeah.
Metal is moving.
So I think we get the point there
Hmm.
that as the frequencies go up, the shape gets more complex. And also, you're only seeing a 2D version of 3D sound coming out.
Right.
Sound, if you think about it, is more like a ball of energy going through the air, moving the molecules in the air.
Mm.
Just the same way that sound moves through air, air is considered a medium to propagate sound, to move the air molecules through sound. Sound is a mechanical force. It needs those molecules to continue to have that domino effect to go through the air. Same thing for that metal plate. As it's resonating through the metal plate, that those molecules are moving to the sound. But the only time that it hits the resonant frequency is when it makes those cool geometric shapes.
Mm.
And that's the point that I love to really philosophize about and really think about, because when you think about all the sounds and all the frequencies that are happening all around us at all times, how can we not be affected by it?
Mm.
How could we not be, I'm not saying positive or negative, just either or. Like there's waves, sound waves, and frequencies flying through the air all the time. We don't we aren't able to hear all of them. Just like you were saying earlier, our hearing is 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Bats can hear ultrasonic waves above 20,000 hertz. Elephants can hear waves below our hearing. So just because we can't hear it doesn't mean that it's not there. Or
Mm.
just because we can't feel it doesn't mean it's not there. It just is something we're not anatomically equipped for, but we have instruments to be able to measure it and we know that they're there.
Interesting.
So that was an experiment of resonance. Now let's look at sympathetic resonance and what that is in a scientific experiment.
Okay. I was I was really thinking about something really deep, but it could spin us off track here.
Okay, let's stay on track.
I'm
Okay,
gonna take
so
notes on it though.
are you seeing this? Yeah, put it in the notes. Put it in the notes. All right, this one is called sympathetic resonance.
Now I'm going to do an experiment that demonstrates the physical principle of sympathetic resonance. What I have here is a tuning fork, and this particular one is tuned to a frequency of 440 hertz, or 440 cycles per second. I'm going to strike it with a rubber mallet, and when I do, it's going to vibrate, and we're going to hear the vibrations. So now you can hear that pure sound at 440 hertz. Now I'm going to strike it one more time, and this time after I do that, I'm going to stop it from vibrating by dampening it, and then the sound will go away instantly. So you can hear as soon as I dampen it, no more vibration, no more sound. Okay, now what I'm going to do is bring in a second tuning fork, which is identical to the first one. So I have two tuning forks that are both tuned to 440 hertz. And what I'm going to do is strike the first one and then dampen it. And as I dampen it, you'll notice that the second one is also vibrating at the same frequency as the first one, because they both have the same resonant frequency.
Magic.
Do that one more time.
You see what's happening there?
The wave going through, and because the other tuning fork is made out of the same material, it is
So this is the
absorbing the
phenomenon
wave,
of sympathetic resonance.
right?
Yep, exactly.
Right. Exactly. So,
Whoa.
oh, sorry, did you I thought you were done.
That was it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
That was
so
my
I
dad.
I
That was
see
my
where you're
dad
going.
doing the experiment there.
I see where you're going with that though, right? So like if we're if humans are essentially made up of the same matter, right? And some sort of energy comes out of me and I'm with you, you feel that, you're absorbing it, you're resonating with it, whether negative or positive or neutral or whatever. There's something happening whether you like it or not.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. You jumped right to the human thing, but I was, which is the whole point in general. But just the idea of that to me, like, not only are those boxes identical, like you were saying, they're made of the same material, but they're also mathematically identical. They're not just the same material, they're actually cut exactly the same.
Mm,
And if the box were longer or shorter, that that sympathetic resonance would not happen.
mm,
So again, just like that metal plate, it has to be the specific frequency, very, very specific.
mm.
And so,
And I would even go further and say like really, really, if you go down to the micro level, right? Like it's hard to cut a piece of wood exactly the same, and even metal, like creating like a tuning fork, they're microns off probably. So yes, it's pretty close, so you feel that you see the resonance, but it's never going to be exact. It's never exact.
that's true. So it could be 440.05 hertz, and the other one's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
440 point.
But
It can get
that's the like the fingerprint thing that we're talking about here with like the metal and humans and whatever. It's every single thing is like slightly different or very different.
right. And that's the whole point of like this is what makes this so different, is that it has this quantum sensor, and they've called it a quantum sensor, but really it's a signal to noise ratio that's creating static in the air, and that static can read the differences in the air around us. So
Mm,
it's basically measuring the subtle difference of air and frequency around us, and through that signal to noise generator. Because for me, it was coming from our sound background, we know that to record sound into a microphone is either dynamic or condenser. And that dynamic is using a magnet around a coil. So your voice is moving a very small magnet around a coil, creating electrical difference. And that electrical difference is then read into the computer and measured in hertz and then basically recreated. We used to do everything analog, but now things go from analog to digital through the computer, and that's a whole nother
that's a whole other
conversation.
book.
But just the idea that it's a coil around a magnet, that our voice is moving within the microphone to create sound and measure sound. And so the same thing goes for this. They're using static, and the measuring the difference between the static is how you get the frequencies above and below frequencies that we can't hear.
Mm,
Because I was like, how is that even possible? But they're using static. And so that signal to noise ratio is able to measure the subtle differences of the frequencies around us, and able to read our energy in real time and give us the resonant frequencies that our bodies need in the time that we need it. So when we run a program one day, it's going to be different the other day because it's reading it in real time. And that's the difference, is being able to read it in real time and then give you the frequencies in real time. And you can feel your body when it hits that resonant frequency. It's like it starts to tingle. And it's basically like an oscillator sweeping through the frequencies, trying to find which ones are the ones we need, and then it knows over time. And that's the real-time generator quantum sensor that this technology has. I mean, it's the future,
yeah, it's
hands down.
yeah. I mean, you have to. it's unfortunate in a way that to if somebody came to me and was like, how does the Healy work? Like, you have to go down these deep rabbit holes to even explain it, that like in a
You
way
don't
that makes
though. When you wear it the first time, you can feel it. Like the first time I wore it, I could feel it.
yeah,
Like I
no,
was
you
like,
could
"What the hell is
no, I
going
get
on?"
I get that, but I mean, if somebody actually like really wanted to understand the technology,
Right.
you can't just be like, oh, it's this and this. It's like, well, you ready to sit down for fucking 3 hours, you know?
Well, that's where we come in because
Yeah.
we love to do that shit.
Yeah, because I was actually trying to
Right.
explain to my wife last night, and I found myself like, because I know where her like, I don't know, understanding of this information is at her level, and I since I was like going above that multiple times just in like a 5 minute conversation, because she's like, well, what is a energy, and what's your bioenergetic what is it? What do they use? Bioenergetic field,
Field.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, well, okay. And then I'm trying to explain it to her, and she's just like, oh, all right, just I think it works.
Well, and I think that's why, we're doing this project to basically put out frequencies of us talking about this. And if people pick up on it or even just tune in to listen for a little bit, at least the idea is out there and it may give some people something to think about today,
Yeah, I mean, I
in a
think
different way.
for me, this is part of why I love Healy so much, or just even just this technology, is that like it's like never ending understanding and information, and evolution of like development of the new technology and stuff like that. And it's like you can look at it like all day long, and you'll only have looked at like a percent, like a small percentage of it. You got to like constantly like look at things. And then when you get into like the resonance and the aura readings and all that other stuff, it's like that's a whole other world that you're just diving into and understanding about yourself. Like I
Yeah.
think like the programs that help you physically, whether it's like stomach or, heart, or, active fitness and stuff like that. That's like just the top layer of the Healy, there's like, it goes so deep, and it's hard to deny that it's something that can change your life. Like, once you just even scratch the surface, you're like, oh shit, this is like legit.
Right.
Hmm.
Yep. All right.
All right.
I guess that's it.
Oh, that's what we got.
No. So you were going into like bioenergetic field, and I think that's, we could keep talking about this and just in different ways, and hopefully people pick up on a little bit of it, or maybe fully understand all of it, or completely resonating with us. But the idea is almost silly to me that we're calling it bioenergetic field now, because it's like it's almost a slap in the face to all these cultures that have been around for thousands of years talking about the idea that our bodies have energy and that we are light beings radiating photons or light off of our body. And that is, if you look at let me just pull up for funsies, since we're going here, um something called the Sri Yantra. And this, to me, I first found it when I started practicing yoga. It was at a yoga studio. Um, Let me just pop this on the screen because we can do that. Um, so, does that look like anything we've looked at today?
Yeah, and what's this?
This is the Sri Yantra. This is what a lot of yogis and Buddhist monks look at to meditate.
Hmm.
They look at the very center and allow their mind to focus on it. go into a different brain state, which we can now measure with science. It's either theta or gamma or alpha. And going into those brain states allows them to have a different perspective, completely mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, in this body, in this time, in space. And that's what yoga practice is all about. However, this picture is thousands of years old. So if you have these really well practiced monks or yogis, oftentimes they go into a different state and they have visions and see things. And this to me is like them being able to see the matrix. Or if you think that, you know, everything is sound or vibration, like we've been talking about, and there's frequencies out there beyond, uh, below and above what we can hear, what we can see, what we can feel. There then could be frequencies holding together the entire reality that we live in today and the matter that we walk on today and use and interact with one another. So, this to me is the most basic representation of the universe, that it is geometric in shape. And when you hit resonant frequencies, you get pictures. And those pictures could be, the tree, our body, it's
Mm,
holding shape. It's held shape. We are pretty symmetrical as well when you look at our bodies anatomically.
right.
And so going back to the idea like that, now we're calling it bioenergetic field. It's like they've called it aura, they've called it prana and chi for thousands of years, but now in order for Western brains to wrap their minds around it, we have to rename it for our language and then talk about it in terms more scientifically
Yeah.
so that people can come to an understanding of it. And,
Well,
you know,
what they've done is they've gone in the reverse, right? They've gone from the scientific side, like fundamental facts, tangible things, right? And gone in reverse. And what it doesn't matter which way you go, you end up in this like almost like spiritual realm, right?
right?
It always ends up there because there's, this like what's going on here with these shapes and stuff, right? Another thing I wanted to say was, um, you were mentioning like Buddhas and stuff like that, and how old is this picture? You said
Honestly, I don't know
it's
specifically,
thousands of
but
years, probably.
I know it's thousands of years old
Okay,
at the very least.
so
And
I was
some
actually
people would even
oh, sorry,
argue that it's millions.
really.
So, yeah.
So I was actually hanging out with some friends this weekend, and we were kind of talking about this type of thing, and one of my buddies mentioned how like um, Buddhist, what do you call them? Whether like not a Buddhist colony, but like
Buddhist monks?
yeah, monks that like up in the Himalayas or wherever they are. Um, they do these what do you call them, mantras, right?
Yeah.
And
Chants. They
right,
say it over and over and
right.
over
And I
again.
think that is I mean, this is just my own theory, but that's probably how they've visualized these shapes, whether it's in the meditation, they're just creating it within, or maybe there's a bunch of them and they all find this one frequency and maybe it makes the water move or whatever. But that's probably like the early stages of like the video that you showed earlier.
Hell yes. Check this out.
All right, you got more videos?
Oh, yeah. Um,
Which is the same, is in the same realm of like the opera singer breaking the glass as well. But they were intentionally, the Buddhists were going in to create these geometric shapes, I would assume.
yeah, I don't want to spend a bunch of time like with dead air, but we should have. That would be a great video to show. But there's a somebody's recorded a monk oming, just going
Mm.
om, and that vibration, and then putting it on a plate and trying to match resonant frequencies, and he was doing it with his voice.
Ah.
So that to me is like, if you're able to do it with your voice, obviously it's doing it in the air, and then what is that doing to your body? If we're 80+% water, and we know what vibration and frequency does to water, we have this beautiful sound of intention coming out, hitting a resonant frequency in your body. We can just heal each other. I could
Mm.
just ohm right at you.
Right. And actually getting back to water and Dr. Emoto's experiments, if you have never heard of this before, just Google or YouTube Dr. Emoto water experiments. And he, he was doing essentially the same thing that we saw with the plate, but he was doing it with water and water molecules, like particles. Like each
Mhm.
snowflake is a water molecule, essentially, right? Um, and actually, no, snowflakes are bigger than the water molecules, but sometimes a snowflake is like a bunch of molecules all stuck together. But, anyways, what I'm getting at is when you do it with water, he figured out that water actually holds it has memory, so it actually holds the frequency.
Mhm.
um, and then you can see that in different experiments, such as like, they have different glasses or flowers or rice or whatever, the rice experiments with different
I just
jars.
put it up. But I
Oh, you have it? Okay.
think you blocked me.
No,
Yeah,
I
there
just
it is.
I just didn't pop it up yet. I'm in control over here. I was
Yeah, I know.
talking. um so yeah, when you so that plate, once you're resonating those frequencies with the oscillator, once you shut off the oscillator, it just goes back to its natural state, right? Water is
Right.
different. Water actually, it stays in it.
Yeah, water retains structure because of its hydrogen and oxygen bonds.
Mm.
It
So you
retains shape, just like our body retains shape.
so then this goes back to, I don't even know, maybe like a blood of Christ and like, the I don't know, maybe all kinds. They get the cups, or I don't know. I don't know. I'm really screwing up the whole religion of Christianity, but um, where's it going to go with that? Um,
God just shut you down.
God, just like shut up. You don't know what the fuck you're talking
Yeah.
about. But yeah. So you can literally infuse water with love or hate or anything you want, and it's actually in there.
Yeah,
Like,
his experiments are, he's putting intention into the water and then freezing the water and looking at it under a microscope. And depending on the phrase, like some of these are thank you, you make me sick, love and attraction. I think gratitude is one of them. And then, oh no, there's a before and after,
hey, you guys zoom
polluted water, and then yeah, I can't really zoom in on it.
in. Yeah, so the ones with the like perfect shapes are is pro I don't know, I might be misstating this, but it's more like positive energy, right? Like positive reinforced energy.
Yeah, which is intention. Now, but this is also the interesting thing to me, so we're talking about, I mean, Dr. Emoto, we didn't really come ready to talk about that, which is why we're fumbling on it. But I definitely think it's a rabbit hole that people should go down and research. Dr. Emoto, Emoto.
Mm.
But I also want you to look at this.
Man, you really come stacked with the
Hey, visuals are everything, they reinforcement to what we're talking about. I
yeah.
mean, look at this. Does anybody recognize this? That's just
Mm.
nature. Just nature? Why is nature coming out in geometric shapes, kind of like what we were just looking at?
Right. So then now we're getting into um, almost like astrology, because if these shapes are happening naturally on Earth, then where is that frequency? Where is that resonance coming from? Right.
Right,
And
right.
that's where astrology comes in. And like when different planets are in different orbits or aligned with different things, they funnel energy in a specific way towards Earth, right? And then I don't know who know. And this is where I was going to go earlier when I was saying we could really go off. I'm just going to throw it out there, and we can go down the rabbit hole or not. But like,
Okay, let's go.
is
We've
it
kind of covered
possible?
the basics. Let's go. Let's
Then
go.
then we're getting, we've dabbled in this whole like matrix thing, and then the whole particles with the double slit theory and stuff like that, right?
That was a
So
different podcast.
that was another podcast. If you want to know about that, go back about
That's
two
the
podcasts.
observation effect podcast. Yep.
And could it be that somewhere somehow there are specific frequencies getting sent to Earth, or just so happens we're in line with it, right? That create all the material things. Because I was thinking like that plate, right? And you're talking how there, wherever the waves go, or whereas the highs, there's nothing, and where there's lows, everything funnels into, right? So it's actually creating these shapes. And because that's tangible, it's actually there, right? The
Right. That
salt.
metal plate is, if you were to look at it, it would be doing this. And when it goes like that, the sand sits there.
It
And
goes
when
in.
it goes up, the sand goes away. So as it's going and making that picture, you have to think of that square as moving in 3D
Right.
up and down in that shape that you're looking at where the sand
But in
sits.
in fact, if you're sending one frequency, though, you have to think of it. Yes, technically, it is like vibrating so fast, right? But technically, like if you just looked at it with your naked eye, I guess it would just look like it just morphed. It just like, right? Do you hear what I'm saying? Like,
What
like it.
you mean, like when the sand snaps to the geometric shape?
Right, 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 right.
Yeah, it just happens
It's vibrating
instantly.
so fast that you don't even see it, and it's
Right.
just goes deep, and all the sand
Yeah,
just
it's like
sits there.
static and then boom, a
Right.
clear picture.
So
Yeah.
if you could get down to the microscopic level and like kind of when you're tuning, you'll see the plate go, but then once you hit that resonant frequency, it just goes, it like snaps in because that's the exact frequency, right? So, um, once again, this is really deep, and I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I think you know where I'm
Take a
going.
deep breath. Take a deep breath
Yeah,
and focus.
because I'm thinking and talking at the same time, but
Is that like thocking? Would that be called thocking?
thoughting.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
thinking and talking.
thoughting.
It's
I'm
like
thoughting.
you're
Yeah.
you're thocking right now.
So, so with that being clearly possible to create shapes, now in that instance they were using salt, but maybe there's other materials that actually like mold and stay solid in that vibration, in that specific frequency, right? Maybe
Well,
like a
it
mercury or
stays,
something, huh?
yeah, it stays solid in a shape at a resonant frequency. They
Right.
do they'll do water, they do paste, they do all sorts of different things on the metal plates. They do fire.
It would be cool if there's a thing. I mean, I guess you could do paint, right? And then when the paint dries, it stays there, right? Do you get what I'm
All right,
saying?
yeah.
But
Do you want to?
but
I
there's
feel like we
probably
should watch this video.
other materials that maybe I don't know. I'm just saying, like,
Dude, watch this. This is where we're going. I know where you're reading your mind.
okay, okay.
Okay, we're gonna go here.
And
This
this
is
will be the
happening.
end of it because I got to get going after this.
Okay, this is 6 minutes.
The film you're about to see has no characters. If you spare a little of your imagination, it is a film to describe to you the effect of cymatic frequencies on matter.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen this. I think this is actually really cool. I want to turn it down on your end.
Got it. See, there's water.
Yeah.
There's the oscillator machine.
All right, this is super cool, but I got to get going.
Man,
Tell them where to find that.
killing the vibes. This
All right.
is Cymatics. It's on YouTube. It's called Cymatics. Science versus Music. Nigel Stanford. Yeah, it's cool. He uses different elements using different resonant frequencies with instruments and then makes music out of it. So it's pretty freaking cool.
That is super cool. I don't know. I just feel as though we're at like the like baby stages of understanding this, you know, as humans, and there could be other things in the world that understand and know how to manipulate this way better than like what was just shown. You know what I'm saying? In a
Yeah.
way that they can and actually create things, like tangible things with,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, if you start with the Bible, the very first verse is how does it go? In the beginning, there was the Word, there was sound.
Mm,
A lot of the ancient religious texts start with there was nothing, and then there was a vibration, or there was nothing, there was sound, or God said, and then let it, and then it happened.
right.
You know, maybe that is a basic way for us to understand that sound is the very fabric of our reality.
Literally, it gets to the like the perception of everything, right? Like so.
Yeah,
Anyways,
not a Brahma, not a Brahma.
you know what we need to do?
Everything is sound.
We need to have offline deeper discussions about this stuff, right? And then come back with like notes and stuff.
Well, if you would have read my notes from last night that I told you to read,
I haven't even looked at my email. You know what? My email is not like telling me that I have new emails anymore. So I don't
you're
know
dead
what's
to
going on
me.
with that.
I'm just kidding.
All right. Sorry, but I got to get going. But we'll definitely be back soon. I believe even Friday maybe.
Yeah,
And yeah, we'll have a new podcast with some new information, and we'll go deeper down the rabbit hole if you want.
yeah, man. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
If you have any questions, as always, put in the comments. We'll write back. We have a YouTube channel as well. Check us out on YouTube
And Twitter.
and Twitter.
And we're
Yeah.
working on some of the other ones right now.
Yeah.
Instagram and all right. See you guys later.